Warning, this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. He goes to look and finds the cat wrapped in barbed wire. What is the most evil thing you have witnessed? I had a few girls set me up to be attacked by another girl on a trip to a nearby town. She attacked me at a party, and while she strangled me, her boyfriend poured beer in my eyes so I couldn't see. At the time I thought the girls I had made the trip with, the ones who set everything up, were my friends. After the whole ordeal ended I came to them crying and all they said was we should have taken pictures. There's a subset of gay men who are, to put it mildly, buttholes. They think that their honesty and lack of tact is refreshing, but it's just their justifications for butthole behavior. Example, if someone they're not interested in asks them to dance, they will flat out tell them what physical flaw is the reason for turning them down. I've overheard, or been the receiver of, the following. You're fat, you're too tall, you're too skinny, you look like a cokehead, I'm out of your league, you're not wearing any designers, you look straight. All of those things, said straight to someone's face. They think they're being divas and all the other horse crap excuses these trailer trash wannabe Beyonce queens use. And then they wonder why there aren't any good guys who look like Brad Pitt and dote on their every beck and call. It's pretty funny how members of an oppressed group can be just as oppressive and offensive as the people they fight against. My friend and his mother were murdered during a break-in at their house during Christmas. After his dad and brother got out of the hospital, I went by to give my condolences and spent most of the time sitting in my friend's room talking to his brother. It later turned out the brother hired 2 people to kill his family, shoot him in the arm, and then escape to try and inherit the family wealth. I grew up with a guy that lived just down the road. He was the local small-town bad seed and everyone knew it. He reveled in it. He vandalized a 150-year-old historical home dear to our town. He then went on to sodomize his minor cousin. He was in and out of jail, heavy into drugs. Everyone knew he would eventually kill someone. When he was in his early 20s he beat an elderly woman to death in a mobile home for her social security check. He is still in prison at this time. He is the only person that I have ever met that is evil in its purest form. Just a week ago, I was biking down a bike lane on a city street in the middle of rush hour. Some guy comes jogging up the bike lane opposite traffic. I can't swerve around him because of the car traffic, so I keep going, expecting him to hop on the sidewalk. Instead, he punches me in the stomach as I pass by, calling me an butthole. I fell into oncoming traffic and was an inch away from getting run over by a pickup truck. I was friends with this guy in high school, and a few years after graduation he shows up at my house with $38,000 in cash. He tells me that his father left him the money to be given when he turned 21, and he asked me what he should do with it. I told him he should either invest it or use it to further his education. He agreed that was a good idea, asked me to hold his money for a day. He took $300 of it, and left. He went to a mutual friend's house, and when the friend found out he came into money, he asked him to get an apartment with him. He did, and he blew all the money partying for a year. Through the course of this year, he scored a girlfriend. At the end of the year he had nothing. He didn't work and he smoked and drank all the money away. His roommate informed him that he was going to get a new apartment with his girlfriend, ditching him now that he's broke. My friend moved into his girlfriend's house with her parents. After about a month of sponging off of them and fighting constantly with his girlfriend, the father comes to him and says, "This isn't working out. How about we all just agree that this isn't good for anyone, and you just move out?" My friend begged him to give him 2 weeks to turn this all around. The father assumed he meant he'd finally get a job. He got his girlfriend pregnant. The family now fully supports him by buying him a house. Last I heard, he's still doing nothing while his wife, they got married shortly after she got pregnant, works full-time as a cook. I lived in London, UK during the riots they had in the summer of 2011. I lived in Clapham Junction, right near the corner, up the street from Debenhams, and across from a place called Party Superstore. I saw a lot of bad things that night that made me feel uncomfortable with humanity. A mother holding the metal gate of an off-license shop open so that her 10-year-old could squeeze in and start passing bottles of booze out to her. A herd of women walking into Debenhams empty-handed, then back out with fully stuffed roller luggage, and people throwing rocks at photographers. But the worst? The absolute worst feeling I ever had was seeing the look of terror on people's faces in the windows of the flats across the road when they realized some looters had set the costume shop beneath their apartments on fire. It was like staring into an aquarium of panic. I think the looting was pretty bad, and the vandalism too. But the complete lack of regard for the people living in the apartments above Party Superstore was chilling. I can remember a group of guys coming out of the shop in blank white masks, and one of them had a jester's hat on, and swayed beneath the street light while watching the shop catch fire. The smell of the fire stuck with me for days. The guy who owned the shop, named Duncan, is a really great guy too. He ran a charity for Burmese orphans. That was a hell of a night. When I was in 7th grade, a kid I knew but didn't really like, because I knew he was a butthole, comes up to me and says these two girls wanted to talk to me. One of the girls I thought was kinda cute, so I follow him into the part of the field that's out of sight of the recess supervisor. While I started talking to the girl I liked, the other sneaks up from behind me with a piece of dog poop on a pencil and shoves it in my mouth. I pick some of it up, throw it at her, then start throwing up my lunch in the field. The supervisor comes up and asks me what happened and if I'm alright, and I tell her. I wasn't the one that typically rats people out in tattletales, but I told him all the details. F that girl, it was disgusting. So as you probably already know, rumors spread like wildfire in junior high, so stories of me all ridiculous and most along the lines of me voluntarily picking up the poop, eating it and enjoying it. Happened to me a few months ago. I have an intense fear of heights, like hugely intense. So a few months ago I had a party on top of an apartment block in a penthouse, and I made sure I was very very far from the edge. There were these two complete buttholes from the grade above me, who knew about my fear, so when they were pretty drunk, they overpowered me and leaned me over the edge of a balcony up to the stomach level. Now these guys are pretty wasted and we are a good 30 floors up. I passed out from fear thinking I was going to die, and woke up 2 hours later to find the two guys beaten up and kicked out, and I was still shaking pretty violently. This was literally one of my worst nightmares come true. When I was younger, a stray cat used to hang around my house a lot. My dad would give it milk and some food all the time. One day, an old racist couple moved next door. My mom and I went over to welcome them. They creaked the door open and yelled, "Get off our property, you elf," in Filipinos. And tell your other N-word neighbors to stay away. Well, one day, they saw my dad feed the stray cat. Later that afternoon, my dad went to take the trash out and heard a horrible crying near our fence. He goes to look and finds the cat wrapped in barbed wire, bloodied, and the tail cut off. I helped my dad take the cat out, called animal services and the police on the neighbors. I was younger then, so I'm not sure what happened, but they one day packed up and left. There's a bar near where I live in Michigan that I have been to exactly 3 times. First time, car broken into, dead grandpa's golf club stolen from it. Second time, 5 friends wrongly accused of rape, the accuser is still in prison, doesn't pay to make that up. Third time, my car got stolen within 10 minutes of arriving at the bar, thieves crash it into patrol car and run. I'm later arrested as a result for leaving the scene of an accident and felony assault on a peace officer, car as deadly weapon, by the same cop who had written my stolen car report. He had zero recollection of me 2 hours after completing the report, and I spent 2 days in jail. Evil? It lives at Shorty's Bar and Grill. There used to be a guy in my neighborhood who lived across from my bus stop. No one ever really saw him go outside. Well, one day when all the kids get off the bus, he lets his pit bull out the door. The dog starts attacking the kids, including me and my little brother. My brother and I run towards my house to try to get my BB gun. I wasn't gonna try to kill it, but lead it towards me so I could give everyone else a chance to run. Well, the door is locked and I don't have my keys on me. The dog followed us and pins my brother and I up against my porch. We decide to do the thing in Jurassic Park where you stay still and shut up. It actually worked. My brother and I are up against the porch facing this dog for a good 5 minutes. Out of nowhere my mom comes up behind it and slams the dog's head with her keys, making it run back home to its owner, who is laughing his butt off during the whole ordeal. He was arrested the next day. That dog made me hate dogs for years until I met the nicest dog in the world. But that pit bull bit 3 kids, and scratched a 4th. They got checked for rabies and needed shots. Psychotic neighbor. Everyone in the neighborhood was terrified of him. One night, his very pregnant wife is seen flying down the road in their van with him hot on her butt in his pickup trying to pull her over. She stops right in front of our driveway, gets out and tries to run towards our house, but it's too late. He snatches a handful of her hair and jerks her off her feet, slamming her into the ground. As we're calling 911, we can see him absolutely brutalizing her, punching, kicking, stomping. We yell out the door for him to stop. He's killing her, but he threatens to kill us, too, so we stay inside, because we know he'd make good on the threat. Cops show up, but he's already gone, his wife a battered mess in the middle of the road. Later, we found out she'd lost one of the twins she was carrying, and the other came out with a deformed face from the beating. She went back to him after her hospital stay and refused to press charges, just like all the other times he'd beaten her senseless. Bonus story, he left a bag of severed puppy heads on the back porch for his own children to find as punishment for not doing their chores. Me and my best friend were in his front yard doing who the hell knows what. We were probably in 6th or 7th grade, 1998 to 2000, around there. We start hearing some loud bang, 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 coming from the backyard, and it gets our curiosity up. When we arrive all the way at the back fence that runs parallel with the alleyway, we see a city police officer standing over a large black and white dairy cow with people standing around. The cow is laying on its side and with blood all over, pouring out of its head, and appears to be trying to run in place, making strange gargling noises. My buddy and I are in complete disbelief in what we're seeing. Now if any one of you have seen the movie, Me, Myself, and Irene, you will be able to picture this easily. It looked exactly like the scene from the movie, just with lots of blood, and the officer was using either a shotgun or a rifle. The cop would fire his weapon, holding it probably a foot from the animal's head. When he would fire, the cow would raise its head all the way up and moo in the most horrifyingly way possible, while the blood ran down its face and then slam its head back into the earth. While we were standing there, the cop fired at least 5 shots into the cow's skull until finally it died. The owner of the cow shows up with a big trailer to take the cow home and is completely pissed off. No kidding? I almost thought the cop was going to shoot him as well. The next day there was an article in the newspaper, I can't find this article, it's driving me crazy, saying the officer found the cow but felt he was being cornered by it and fired his pistol into the animal multiple times to save himself. After that is when we showed up with him finishing the cow off. Old lady purposely slamming on her brakes with motorcyclist behind her. One slams into her back, throwing both old motorcyclist onto the trunk of her car. They were both hurt pretty badly. And another motorcycle had to go off the road, and they hit a pole. The guy was okay, but his wife hit her ankle on the pole. The old lady got out exclaiming angrily that she didn't do anything wrong. Her turn signal was on. Bunch of BS. Her blinker was not on, and everyone who had been exiting the store that was facing the road saw what happened. She looked like she was ready to bolt, and she had this cold look on her face. Are you kidding me? You just severely injured 2 old people on a motorcycle, and you don't even care? Not saw, but heard. It was one Monday morning. My brother had come back from college and was staying in the house. On Sunday, he and his girlfriend decided to clean his room. Now, neither I nor my brother are the cleanliest of peoples. To call this task Herculean would be an understatement. But they managed to get through and cleaned up his entire room. Among the things that he threw away was an old busted music stand. Like any sane person, he didn't think much of it and just threw it in a trash bag. Then the next morning, at about 6 o'clock, I hear someone storming up the steps. Just a stomp 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 stomp. Then walking briskly, almost running down the hall towards my brother's room. Then the doors burst open and I hear a bunch of punching and slapping. I hear my mother cry out, "You stupid little piece of... How could you throw out your grandfather's music stand?" Apparently that broken, rusted music stand belonged to my grandfather. I loved my granddad, but it's not like he was some great musician. He just tried high school band for a few months in the 40s. She had seen it poking out of a trash bag in the street and immediately went to confront my brother about it. Now, if you're a rational, kind parent, what would you do? Personally, I would retrieve the music stand from the bag, bring it inside, and then tell my child how important it was to me, as there was no real way of him knowing otherwise. I would not barge into my child's room and start yelling and hitting him, waking up my other child to this horrific scene. That's what crazy people do. I could hear him trying to block her punches, but she just kept on beating him and berating him. All the while, I was just lying in my bed, frozen. This whole thing lasted around 5 minutes, but it felt like 5 hours. She eventually made him get up and go through each trash bag so that she could approve what he was throwing away. When I left for school that morning, I saw him on the ground going through the trash. He was crying. He looked at me. I couldn't look him in the eye. My brother is the only member of my family that I actually like, the only one whom I really care about. I could have done something, anything, to stop this. I could have grabbed the bat, or hell, I take boxing lessons. I probably didn't even need the bat. I probably could have just walked in there and confronted her with words and that would have stopped it. But I didn't. I just lay there. I feel like I betrayed him, that I was too much of a coward to go help my own brother from being beaten. This kind of thing was common in our household, but I don't know, I still think back to this one. It's stuck with me. I just lay there. I failed my brother. Anyway, beating my brother over some trivial crap for no real reason, that's the most evil thing that I've witnessed. We still have that music stand. For 2.5 years, I was an autopsy assistant at one of the busiest morgues in the US. I spent my days either partnered with a forensic pathologist, doing the dirty work, or in a van driving around to crime scenes and hospitals to pick up victims. I saw an awful lot of evil stuff, daily confirmations that mankind is capable of truly horrible acts. A short summary of one of the worst things I ever saw: some dad was driving drunk in the rain, flash flood situation, and had his 3 kids plus 2 children that belonged to friends in the back seat. He lost control of the vehicle, I think it involves the use of a cell phone, and ended up in deep ditch with the vehicle sinking in the water. Somehow he managed to kick out the back window of the car, and proceeded to climb out over the 5 kids in the back seat. He swam to the shore and lived. 5 elementary-aged kids drowned. The worst part was that we didn't find all the kids at once. It was like a kid per day all week, further and further down the waterway. Their little school uniforms and high school musical backpacks are burned into my memory. That dad was evil via cowardice. My friend from overseas was new to our school and an absolute cool guy. Really confident with girls, etc. One girl started flirting with him in class and got him to IM her. Well, it started to heat up and the chat got pretty intense. Then right at the end, she just says, "I'm just messing with you. How could you think anyone would be interested in you?" So yeah. My friend is destroyed. The next day he walks into class and she's got the conversation printed out and she's reading it to literally the entire class while they laugh their butt off at my friend. He just walked out and found somewhere alone to cry. Kind of messed him up permanently with women. If you're out there, Grace, F you and your stupid face. You're not even pretty. A girl I knew in college faked terminal cancer. She got a lot of sympathy and compassion from myself and a lot of our friends. A few of us shaved our heads in solidarity for her when she shaved hers, because she knew her hair was going to fall out. The worst was when she walked in the survivor's lap of Relay for Life. Once she got outed as a liar, this was the biggest insult and affront to me. I have a fraternity brother and very close friend who is struggling with cancer, and her lies and BS insult the very real struggle that so many people have gone through. She wanted attention because she wasn't dying. I understand that she has some serious mental health issues, but it still makes me very angry. Back in 2nd grade we had this teacher who was just mad and evil. No student liked her, no parent liked her, and those of the faculty that admitted how they felt also didn't like her. All because she was just a nasty person. Description of her would be, short thin red hair, the face of a crooked-nosed witch, and a medical condition that gave her elephantitis legs so she hobbled around on tree trunks. There was a kid in our class who just did not have an ideal life. Terrible mom, no friends, sad stuff. Well, he has a problem with keeping things tidy. He didn't have a binder for his folders, so his papers were just all over in his backpack, and his desk was completely disorganized. A lot of our desks weren't perfectly organized either, mine included, but his was the worst. The teacher, sitting at her desk at the front of the class, asks for him to turn in a paper. He lifts up the desk lid and begins his search. After a minute she asks what's taking so long, and the poor guy is panicking because he can't seem to find it after shuffling through the mess a few dozen times. She starts to raise her voice about what's the problem is, and she starts her slow hobble up the aisle. He is in full emergency mode looking for this paper and almost in tears because he knows what storm is coming. We all do. Once she gets alongside him and is able to see the disaster that is his desk, she is completely livid. She starts a tirade about how he is a mess and why is it like this. At the peak of her berating, and the kid is frozen with his head low and tears rolling down his face, she grabs the desk by the legs, flips it over above their heads and dumps everything onto the floor. This table flipping act was done in a packed room, so I'm surprised no one nearby got hit by the flip. She then slams it down, and he flinches the last time. She mutters at him to clean it up. And for the rest of the period, through tears and sobs and shaky hands, he cleans it up while the room is silent and that Queen Butthole sits and watches from her desk. Many of my teachers and other faculty members have passed, and I have mourned each and every one, but her death will bring me no sorrow. All these stories are really dark and depressing. I am sure some of them make you very angry. The truth is, a small percentage of humans will always be evil. Humans are instinct-driven, just like animals, and some don't have their instincts under control, and are not made to function in a modern society, but belong back into a cave. And some are simply psychopaths who enjoy to torture others for pleasure. That is at least my interpretation. Anyway, stay safe from evil people. Don't depend on them, don't allow them to be around you, and don't let them control you.